Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into a genuinely fascinating and honestly profoundly deep worldview derived from our source text on Sanātana Dharma and the philosophy of the eternal religion of service. Whether you're deeply familiar with Eastern philosophy or just kind of curious about different cosmological perspectives, this explainer is designed to lay out the source material clearly and directly. Because whether you realize it or not, the text argues this philosophy drives literally every single action you take.
To get our heads around this expansive worldview, we're going to break things down into 5 quick steps. First, the universal law of service. 2, moving beyond temporary religious labels. 3, identifying the ultimate beneficiary. 4, navigating the cosmic map. And finally, a really mind-bending visual called the upside-down tree. Let's get right into it.
All right, part 1, the universal law of service.
The source text kicks things off with this really interesting observation from a historical figure named Lord Caitanya. He states that every single living being is constantly serving someone or something, period. It totally challenges us right from the start to look in the mirror and ask, who do you serve? We all love to think of ourselves as completely independent, right? But the text argues that service is actually our constant, inescapable companion. It breaks this universal law down into this cascading chain of everyday life. Think about it. The shopkeeper serves the customer. The artisan serves the capitalist serves their family, and the family serves the state. The source even points out that we serve our pets. I mean, if you've ever walked a dog in the freezing rain, you absolutely know that's true. And politicians? They're literally out there presenting manifestos, begging for the chance to serve you. Bottom line, we are all serving.
Which brings us to part 2, beyond temporary religious labels. So, how does all this service stuff relate to religion? Well, the text clarifies this by defining a concept called Sanātana Dharma. A lot of times, people mistake this for a specific organized sect, but the source defines it much more broadly. It's the eternal religion, the constant, unchanging, constitutional position of the living being. And what exactly is that position? You guessed it, rendering service.
This setup brilliantly illustrates the text's distinction. Look at the temporary sects, things like identifying as Hindu, Muslim, Christian, or Buddhist. The source argues these are just designations. They're based on time and circumstance, and honestly, you can change them whenever you want. But your eternal occupation, that's different. No matter what label you slap on yourself, your fundamental identity as a servant never actually changes. That unchanging reality, that's true Sanatana Dharma.
Moving on to part 3, the ultimate beneficiary. Okay, so if we're all eternally meant to serve, the obvious question is, who are we actually supposed to serve to find true happiness? The text points directly to the Supreme Lord, referred to here as Krishna. And here's a really cool detail. The text notes that the word Krishna literally translates to the highest pleasure. The idea is that living entities are inherently created as his servitors, which means we basically can't be independently happy. True happiness, according to the source, only comes from participating in his eternal enjoyment. To make this kind of abstract concept super concrete, the text uses this fantastic biological metaphor. Just think about your own body for a second. Your fingers can't just eat a piece of fruit on their own to get energy, right? That's not how it works. They have to serve the whole system by cooperating to feed the stomach. And it's only when the stomach is satisfied that the entire body, fingers included, actually gets nourished. The text argues we are exactly like those fingers. We just can't be truly happy without serving the stomach, the Supreme Lord. Because of this singular focus, the source text, specifically referencing the Bhagavad-gītā, takes a pretty firm stance against worshiping lesser deities or demigods. It boldly states, "Those whose minds are distorted by material desires surrender unto demigods." It's a strong claim for sure. The underlying philosophy here suggests that seeking out these demigods is driven purely by material lust, not a genuine desire for true happiness. For them, the ultimate goal should always be returning to the supreme abode.
All right, part 4, navigating the cosmic map.
The text lays out this stark foundational difference between the material sky we live in right now and the spiritual sky. Down here in the material realm, we literally need the sun, the moon, or electricity just to see what's in front of us. But the spiritual sky, specifically the supreme abode of Goloka, is described as being entirely self-illuminated by the rays of the Supreme Lord. And the living conditions? Well, the material world is plagued by 4 unavoidable guarantees: birth, death, disease, and old age. The spiritual sky, on the other hand, is characterized by eternal, blissful life.
So the source maps out a universe that's multi-layered. You have lower, middle, and higher planetary systems. We're sitting right here on Earth in the middle. Now, the text does acknowledge that you can reach higher material planets by worshiping specific demigods. But, and this is a big but, it strongly advises against aiming for even the absolute highest material planet, Brahmaloka. Why? Because it's still material. It's still infected with disease and death. The only destination the text says is truly worth striving for is Goloka Vrindavana, the supreme spiritual planet. This actually brings up a really fascinating and honestly kind of funny point from the text regarding space travel. It argues that interplanetary travel using mechanical spaceships is ultimately a waste of time. The text throws out this hypothetical of traveling mechanically for 40,000 years, but it points out that even if you somehow survived a 40 millennia road trip, you're just going to arrive at another planet that still has material suffering. Real travel to the spiritual sky isn't mechanical at all. It's a spiritual process designed so you never have to return to this material universe.
And finally, Part 5, the upside-down tree.
To explain the illusion of the material world, the text gives us one of its most profound visual metaphors. There's this beautiful quote from the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad-gītā that describes the material world as a banyan tree. But here's the catch. Its roots are pointing upward, and its branches are pointing downward. Now, at first glance, an upside-down tree sounds totally bizarre. But the text asks us to imagine standing on the bank of a river. When you look at the reflection of the trees in the water, what exactly do you see? Roots pointing up, branches pointing down.
This isn't just nice poetry. According to the text, it's a literal structural map of reality. Just like that reflection on the water, this entire material world we live in is merely a reflection. It's a shadow of the substantial reality that exists above us in the spiritual world. Think about it. A shadow proves that a real, tangible object exists somewhere, sure, but there is absolutely no actual substance or nourishment to be found within the shadow itself.
Building on that, the explainer offers another really powerful analogy, a mirage in the desert. From far away, a mirage looks exactly like water. It gives you the impression that water exists. But if you run towards it, desperately thirsty, you're only going to end up with a mouthful of hot sand. The text states unequivocally that here in the material world, there is no actual happiness. It only mimics the appearance of it. The real water we're all thirsting for, that exists solely in the spiritual world.
And so, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought derived from these ancient teachings. If this entire material world is just a reflection on the water, or a mirage in the desert, where are you currently looking for water? Are you exhausting yourself serving temporary shadows, or are you actively seeking out the ultimate substance? It's an absolutely incredible philosophical framework to wrestle with. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the text today. Keep questioning, and as always, keep exploring.